Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Ask Bird Guy. I'm Matthew Daughter, the Executive Director of Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society. And the next few videos will be about using eBird. Now, some of you have been using eBird on your cell phone as a mobile app to get data into eBird. Many of you have already created an account and are regularly looking at submitting and looking at your eBird reports. But what I'm hoping to do is introduce some new folks to how to use eBird and the various ways that it can be used as a research aid. There's so much on this rich site hosted by Cornell, and it just keeps getting better. The more data that is put in, the stronger the database becomes, the more complete our picture is of any bird that's discussed, which is basically all the birds in the world, more than 10,000 birds. So pull up a chair, sit down, enjoy, and watch as we go through eBird from page to page in real time. I'll not be editing these down to make it faster. It's going to take just as long as it will take anybody using a Wi-Fi or DSL or broadband to access the data on the site. And so you'll see the delay when it occurs. But no matter, it's basically pretty fast, and you'll see page to page what the various features do, and I hope you enjoy it. Please post your questions, send them to me, and I will try to ask specific questions about eBird, or if something was unclear, I'll try to help and clear it up. The first video in this series will be about the home page and a little bit about the Explore section. The Submit page we'll do on another time. And I would also refer you to Carolyn's video a few weeks back on lists and list keeping, because she talked a little bit about using the eBird app to enter your data. Now, if you don't have an account yet on eBird, you don't need one for this video, but I do recommend you get one. It is absolutely free. I think you will love having the account and love entering your data. And you'll want to create a username and a password, and it can remain completely confidential, or will remain completely confidential, and your profile is completely confidential unless you decide to make it public. So there's really no risk. There's all benefits, and I do hope you enjoy it. And perhaps after you see the many things that eBird can do, you'll be more excited about making an account for yourself and starting to enter your data. Let's get started. Okay, so here we are on the Cornell Lab page for eBird. So the address is ebird.org. And I've logged myself out so we can see what it's like to log yourself back in. But let's take a look at the website first and see what's here before we even log in. All the information they give you, they're basically introducing you to eBird, talking about how you can find more birds, you can share your sightings, you can track your lists. These are basically informing you the value of the eBird website and the eBird app. Here it's hinting at some of the science that's available on the site. And here's a little article about Global Big Day, which just happened recently. And here's a cautionary story about how to bird respectively and mindfully. And here's a little bit more about the app, how you can download it, where you can find it, and all of the standard lower page items, supporters, funders, etc. There's Audubon. So going back at the top, we're going to sign in here and see how that goes. Here it is. So here's my username, mdaughter. And I'm just going to use my finger sign in there so you can't see my top secret password. And I'm going to sign in. So let's see what happens when we get there. Okay. So the image changes, and it looks like the whole stuff below changes. And first of all, you can see my stats. So this says I've seen 1,985 species worldwide. You know, I make no apologies. Considering I've been birding for 42 years, I wish that number were a little bit higher. But I haven't traveled all that much, and I'll show you where I've traveled a bit later. You can see that of the lists that I've submitted, I've got 59 species with photos, and my list of checklists in a streak is only 2 days in a row. In the past, so anyway, it could get better, I'm pretty sure. Complete checklists, 2,434, and 3 species that have audio recordings. So this chestnut-crowned laughing thrush is really just emphasizes the fact that eBird is a global platform, and you can submit birds from anywhere in the world. It might be easier in some places than others, but in any case, it is global. Got your top navigation here. We'll get to those a bit later, but let's go down the page a little bit, something more about Global Big Day, which happened on May 9th. Here's a win a free trip in the Cornell Labs Joy of Birdwatching course. So that sounds pretty good. And here's some stats about how many checklists and how many birds have been sighted per region in the world. And down here, these are some of my favorite parts. So top photos. Let's just click on semi-palmated plover. Beautiful, beautiful photograph. And clearly, this was a favorite among the users. Here's another one, striated thornbill. And least sandpiper. Glad to see a really local bird there. Let's see if we know this person. Tucker Beamer, photographed in Virginia. No, don't know that person, but I do know that species. So let's go back here. So those are the favorite top photos. And you can see up here, you can navigate through them. You can see they have a collection of about 12 of them. There's brown-headed cowbird too. That's a favorite photo. Powerful owl. So wonderful. Here's a semi-palmated. Let's just click on that. Semi-palmated sandpiper. I love that species. See that blunt bill and those black legs and that really compact, very centralized balance of the bird. Nice key features for that species. Here's some audio recordings. Corncrake, blue-winged warbler. Let's just listen to one of these, see what that's like. So let's click on that, see what happens, how long it takes. Yeah. I remember that from the East Coast and from our recent trip to Michigan. I think I heard a common yellowthroat in the background too. So that's kind of fun. So there are recordings here that people have submitted. And here are the rarities. This is one of my favorite things to look at. And I'll tell you why. One is, you see this exclamation point. It means it hasn't been confirmed yet, which means there's a possibility that it's not correct. And that's kind of fun for a teacher, for an instructor, to take a look and see if we agree. That's just too small to really tell anything about. I'm going to skip past that one. Piping plover. Let me see. Where was this photograph? North Carolina. That makes some sense. It looks pretty good for a piping plover. Let's go on here. There it is again. Yeah, that looks more like a piping plover to me. And white-rumped sandpiper. I do remember this. White-rumped sandpiper looks a little bit like Baird's, but slightly different color, slightly different proportions. It looks pretty good for white-rumped sandpiper. And that was photographed in Ontario. And there's a bufflehead. Looks like it. Common hill myna. It's not a great photograph, but it's definitely identifiable. So you can see here, looks like the camera was focusing on those, is that tamarisk? Oh, that's interesting. So he's doctored the photograph here, or she, I'm sorry, Pamela. She has doctored the photograph here to put in an inset. Presumably just to zoom in of the bird in the photograph. White-faced ibis, so hard to tell just with a silhouette like that. This was British Columbia. Yeah, moving on. Oh, I'm not even looking at the name of that bird, but I'm thinking clay-colored sparrow. Yep, clay-colored sparrow. That's in Maine. That looks good to me. So I'm not seeing any here that I feel are incorrect, but let's just pretend that we had some issue with this bird, this blue-winged warbler. If you wanted to, if you felt confident enough that the photograph was incorrect, and it did say unconfirmed down here, you could click on this where it says report. Click on that, and it'll bring up this thing. What is the problem? Well, this is interesting. It looks like this record is already under evaluation by our local volunteer reviewer. Interesting. So somebody else perhaps felt that there was something incorrect about this species. You could also highlight offensive or inappropriate content. I've never done that, but I have clicked on this wrong species on occasion. And it just gives you an opportunity to practice your diplomatic skills at suggesting kindly and humbly that the image does not match your expectation. Perhaps it is another species, or have you considered that it might be a more common species? Remember, all the birds that are in this section of the homepage are considered rare. So there you go. And let's just take a peek here. Up here, we're on the actual checklist, Michael Mayer, and it was Fred Crabtree Park. Let's just see where that is, where that takes us. So we're going to click on that little icon, and we'll see where that is. So zooming out a little bit, you can see here it's going to take a little time to load. There's a nice river nearby, and we are in Maryland, it looks like. So interesting. And I grew up right around here in the Boston area. And my dad and I drove across the country like this and ended up in California, where we are now. In any case, it's awfully fun to take a look at where these checklists originate and see if you agree with the identification. And again, if you ever do feel like you want to correct an identification, please remember to be polite, courteous, unassuming, and just question or suggest that they consider something more common. Because remember, these are rare. So there's a high probability that they are correct, and they're documenting the appearance of the bird, and there's also a possibility that they might be incorrect. And there's nothing wrong with questioning or suggesting. The person who has posted the image will be notified by the local reviewer if the local reviewer feels that there's some credibility to your question. In any case, what it will do is it will encourage the local reviewer to take another look at those photographs and see if there might possibly be something incorrect about it. So that pretty much covers the home page. So we're going to pause for a second and we'll move on to the top navigation, and I think we'll explore the Explore section. Before we go any farther, I neglected to point out something kind of interesting about the home page, and that is that, do you see how the chestnut-crowned laughing thrush turns blue when you roll over? That's clickable, as are all of the images that end up on this signature, this masthead image. So if you click on that, I don't know anything about chestnut-crowned laughing thrush. I'm quite certain it's an Asian species, but I have no idea where. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to see what it shows me. Okay, it's beautiful, beautiful shots, probably taken from the favorites for each of the species. Scrolling down here, you see a little bit of information about it. You see the option to, let's just listen to that. Let's give it a try. It's pretty. So you can see down here that was recorded in India, but let's backtrack a little bit and see. Yeah, it looks like northern India, perhaps portions of southern China, southwestern China. And there have been almost 6,000 observations on eBird, and 242 of them have photographs, and 112 have got audio recordings. And here are the top photos of the species, and here's the top audio, and oh, there's even some video. So sometimes those take a little while to load, but they are there. So Birds of the World, right down here. This is just an example of how truly global the Cornell Lab is, and eBird, as well as their new sort of combined platform, birdsoftheworld.org, which is a subscription-based site, and it's pretty wonderful. So you get much more information, birdsoftheworld.org, than you do here. But here's just a tiny bit of information and a beautiful map, and even the option to look on eBird for more information about it. So that's one thing I forgot to mention. And then also down here where it says eBirder of the Month. These are winners of a monthly challenge. And sometimes that challenge is to submit a checklist every day of the month, or to explore your local 5-mile radius, or to do some other sort of configuration that they present to you each month. And this is sponsored by Zeiss, which means, that you might win a pair of Zeiss binoculars. So it's always good to do the checklist as often as possible and take a gander at what challenge there is each month, because quite possibly you'll end up with a story like Mary's right here. So she won in January of this year. Looks like she's got a winter wren here, and she's got a recording of Louisiana water thrush. And Eric here, look at that. So I didn't even notice where Eric was located, but judging from, the marble muralettes, it looks like clearly West Coast. Let's see, where is he from? Where is he from? Blaine, Washington. That makes a lot of sense. In any case, so he won just in March. Anyway, so give it a try. Well, time kind of got away from us. So much more to talk about with eBird. So check out the next video where we'll be looking at the Explore feature. And if that goes on for too long, we'll have a third video on my eBird. And anything else that comes to mind that you'd like to hear about or like to know about or ask how it works, feel free to send me an email. Till next time.